you have joined the Varietal Show once again. Hey, it's great to see you, and Happy New Year's to everyone. It's been a little while since I've seen you, and you know, we got to start the year off right. So that's why we came to Locanda today, Locanda Estate. This is in Sonoma Valley. Some of you that have watched the show last year have met the great Brian Graham, the winemaker extraordinaire. And I also brought in my great friend Barry Herbst from Bottle Barn, and who's just a great friend of mine. I mean, Barry and I both live in Petaluma. We drink well together, and we judge a lot of wine competitions. And I think that one of the reasons I wanted to bring Barry on today to really do this show with me is we're not judging much right now. So I thought I'd introduce him to Brian and to these wines, and we'd have some fun to kind of talk about where you're at, Brian, and where this vineyard is at right now. So we're at a very special place right here in Sonoma Valley. This is actually, we're kind of right next to Chateau St. Jean. I think a lot of you have gotten to know Sonoma Valley through Chateau St. Jean, and I think it's such a great place, but we are seriously within a stone's throw from it. But you would never know this place was here, and it's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about this little piece of heaven right here.
Well, it's yes, it is next door to Chateau St. Jean, but it's in its own bowl. There's actually a mountain that divides us and then wraps around Locanda. So we are actually in our own little microclimate here. It's a little bit warmer in the afternoons, a little bit colder at night. There's almost no airflow. It's off the ocean. It's just this really beautiful little slice of heaven.
Yeah. Barry, you came here this morning and you were like, oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's really tucked in its own world here, like nothing I've ever seen. It's really cool.
Yeah, you really do feel like you're in Italy, and I there's nothing wrong with that, you guys. And you know, to be really honest, last year in 2020, the first people I was really concerned about were the Italian friends of mine, the great winemakers we had just seen last March, who had come to San Francisco and done all these great shows and everything. We had tasted so many wines with them, and they're the ones that were really stricken first, that you really heard a lot about. And here we are in our little version of Italy too. So, but we're going to start out by tasting a few really fun wines that are not necessarily Italian in heritage.
Yeah.
We're talking about Cabernet and of course Chardonnay, and both from the Beckstoffer Vineyard, two different sites there in Napa Valley, which is just over the hill from us. And in fact, I would say that the Cabernet, the site there at Rutherford, is pretty much straight that way.
Stone's throw over a couple mountains.
A couple mountains. And the other one being this great Chardonnay that we're going to start out with is from Carneros, which is just down to the south of us and is part of Sonoma Valley, the lower end of that, and then the lower end of Napa Valley as well.
This is Los Carneros.
Los Carneros, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about this Chardonnay.
Thank you. So yeah, our vineyard here, the estate vineyard, we don't grow Cab and Chardonnay, and we wanted to complete the portfolio, if you will, and just wanted to spare no expense and just buy from greatest, some of the greatest producers in Napa, and sort of not let our Sonoma project and our estate red wines compete with the Napa, and sort of keep them separate.
Yeah.
So this is Los Carneros. This is Carneros Lake Vineyard. Andy Beckstoffer Vineyard. It's his clone 76. This is my favorite clone of all the clones of Chardonnay. It drinks more like Merceau. It's got a little fatness to it, a little bit of depth, but it's racy acid.
Yeah,
so
you
you
get
do
a
some
buttery impression, and then the acid kicks in.
Exactly.
Shuts it down so it doesn't take over.
Exactly. So what I do with this wine to keep that freshness but round out the mid palate is I stainless steel ferment it, done about 12 bricks. So I get it past the foamy stage, and then I drop it down to barrel. And so it's sur-leed for almost 3 months or so in barrel, which sur-leed rounds out the wine, and then it's unfined, unfiltered through a series of rackings.
See how geeky we can get just because of this wine? Isn't that great? So I mean, what I love about it is it does have that depth, but it's got great acidity. I mean, that's one of the keys to Carneros. It has the lemon, which I always get from Carneros too. And it's got a little bit of this white peach. It's got some grapefruit things going on. It's not super tropical like we would say from Russian River. And I mean, Barry and one of the things that I thought it would be so great to have Barry here with us is, we are so used to judging wines blind. You and I. I mean, we do it all the time, and he and I judge so many competitions together that, what would we think about this? Barry, what are you thinking here?
What I like is, I get a lot of customers that are kind of anti-ripe, sweet Chardonnay coming in, and they're like, it's not too buttery, it's not too oaky, or not too sweet, and this, hits on all of those. I think Merceau is a good description. It gives that hint of hazelnut quality.
Yes, hazelnut.
And a little minerality underneath, and great viscosity without it being too fat. Some of them get cloying, you don't want to come back for another glass. And this is right down the middle. It's delicious Chardonnay.
Yeah, it has some weight to it too, so it's not lean.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like, that's really nice. This is a serious wine that you will have with really great types of cuisine. I mean, I recently had some scallops, the big fat ones too, not the little baby ones. The big fat ones, which are like steaks in many ways. They're almost like monkfish, where it's fatty.
Yeah.
And boy, this would be such a perfect pairing with it. And just doing it on the grill, getting that little char in there, doing the squeeze of the lemon, really kind of opening it up, putting some nice side dishes with it. Wow.
Well, sort of my goal with this wine was to straddle the fence, if you will.
Yeah.
I wanted to straddle that fence between racy high acid and zesty citrus, which I'm personally, when it gets too lean, it's sort of, that's why I can't drink grower champagnes.
Right.
They give me acid reflux, right? I
When you
can't go that
need
direction.
food, it's probably a little too far to that.
Yeah, exactly. So people often ask me, where do you pick? How much ML's in it? And everyone says the same thing. We all, as winemakers, we say the same thing. We pick up flavors. Of course we do. But I am in this particular wine, I'm very conscientious in the ratio of sugar conversion to alcohol, because it is a colder ferment in the tank, and then it warms up once it's in barrel to finish fermentation. So the conversion is a little bit lower, but we're right at 13.6, 13.8, right in there. But the fun thing is with this wine, where I'm getting that bigger mouthfeel that you were talking about, is it has a little bit of the vanilla. It's always different every year. So I let it finish in barrel, and then I let it naturally go to 1 ml, and it's somewhere between 2 and 15% ml, depending upon the year. The 18 actually, the vintage was great, right, for Chardonnay, for white wines. I think this is probably about 9%, 8% ml.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, was this originally winery vineyard, or is this different?
Yeah, this is
Where the art?
Yeah. So
classic.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy cool vineyard. I mean, you pull in Carneros, and then you get into this vineyard down by the water, and you drive up the hill, and you get into the vineyard, and then you start coming through these huge blocks, and you crest over this hill, and you're on the water.
Right.
I mean, this vineyard is
It's really close.
It's been
on it's not close, but it's close enough to where you're gonna 90 seconds of driving and you're there if you get there.
Yeah.
But it's just a hillside vineyard. Again, it's my favorite clone. A lot of people like 96. I like 76 better. It sort of straddles that fence of citrus and tropical fruit, like you were talking about. But
I love it. Great wine. I think this would go very high. The great thing is you just don't make that much of it, so we're not really talking about
right about 120 cases.
120 cases. So chances of Barry and I tasting this in a competition very low. That's why I brought Barry here, so he could taste this, because I think it's an amazing Chardonnay. I mean, this has really got the real deal going. And you and I tasted this a while ago, and it was just a young pup, and it hadn't even been released. So, tasting it, and I remember we tasted it, and then we brought it back after we tasted the reds, just to see it. And we might do that today.
Yeah, I want you to try the wines at that sort of 55, 58 degree range.
Yeah.
That's about as cold as I like to drink wine.
Yeah.
But by the time we get through the tastings today, circle back around when it's at room temperature, and it just softens it out.
Yeah, that's the Chardonnay right there. So going into the next one, which is the amazing Cabernet Sauvignon in this Napa Valley, but from a very special vineyard in Napa Valley. Tell us a little bit about this vineyard.
This is George III vineyard. There's a lot of blessed to be able to call a lot of friends, winemakers out of this vineyard, pull fruit out of this vineyard. It's the anchor, I think, of the area.
Yeah.
It's next door to Camus. But this vineyard is fairly large, but when you drive it, there's so many different blocks and so many different clones. The Beckstoffers, they allow their winemakers to pick the clones in the areas, and so there's a huge diversity of wines that come out of that vineyard. What I wanted to do was stay a little more old world style. Obviously, I need that fruit forward style for California sort of fruitiness, but I like fat, plush, round wines. It's what I drink, and that's what the owner of Locanda wants. So this is actually 2 clones, co-fermented out of the same vineyard. I pick them at the same time. What that means is, one's a little lower ripe, one's a little underripe, or in a perfect world, they're perfect. But generally speaking, co-fermentation, I put them together and it gives a lot more complexity. Clone 15 and clone 337, right at about 60-40, 15 to 337. Optical sorted, stainless steel ferment, a little bit of aging on the skins, single press, and then down to barrel for somewhere between 22 to 24 months.
This was originally a big component in George Latour BV.
Yeah, so Beckstoffer bought this from this vineyard from BV in the 70s. Yeah,
Made a lot of famous wines.
yeah.
And I think that Andy Beckstoffer is one of our heroes. I mean, you gotta love the people that grow the grapes if they're really the top grapes, and this is the case.
And I've never worked with any more professional. I mean, there's something really refreshing to work with. Yeah, you're paying for it, right? I mean, you're paying money, but there's something refreshing about
How they go about it.
they love their winemakers to create identities and then be all different. I did a tasting a while back with 12 or I think it was 14 calves from the same vineyard, the same vintage, from 14 different winemakers, and it was just refreshing to see that they were all different.
Well, the thing I love about this wine, just right off the bat, is that you can smell the grape.
You're not smelling expensive oak barrels.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very common.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to feel like I paid for those barrels. I want to feel like I paid for an amazing wine that came from an amazing vineyard. That's the difference there. I feel like your use of barrels here is really what the key is, because you're not covering up this vineyard at all.
No.
You are really showcasing this vineyard, and I mean that nose smells exactly like when you go to a bin of great Cabernet grapes and you smell them and you stick a few in your mouth and you're just like, oh God, that's Cabernet.
Yeah.
This is Cabernet.
And but this wine is certainly more rustic
Yeah.
than most of the G3s you've tried.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're looking for.
Did you hear that? G3. That's the gang name for G3. George III.
I really wanted more of a Bordeaux-esque.
Yeah, it's got a nice dry impression at the end, not a ripe, sweet, fat impression. It really signals it out as super California style. It's more, that's what you get in Bordeaux, is that dry, astringent impression, but it doesn't suck your mouth.
A little bit of popping acid.
Yeah, just enough, and there's still plenty of brightness there.
Yeah.
But
Right now it's showing a lot of cedar notes.
Yeah.
It's coming through a little mocha and cedar note, sort of in the nose and on the entry. The perfume's really nice right now. This is the 17. Oh, I haven't released the 18 yet. We'll do that 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, Barry, you deal with so many Cabernets at Bottle Barn. I mean, Bottle Barn for me and for so many people. I mean, just to give you guys a concept of what Bottle Barn is, Bottle Barn is where all the winemakers of Sonoma County basically go to buy wine. Barry has to get us all this stuff from Europe because all of us, and I'm not a winemaker, but Barry and I drink what they drink too. And this is the thing, is like you have such a great diversity of styles of wine there, top world-class wines.
Yeah.
This matches up really nice with your
Yeah.
your
Well, that makes it
selection.
fun. I don't have to buy a handful of styles of wine. I can buy a super wide range because winemakers are the most adventurous. Well, people in the industry in general are the most adventurous. So the geekier the better. And
What I love
it's my
about
job fun.
And it's the wine, most of the pie of the winemakers in the world are willing to explore.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not buying on ratings or price point, they geek out.
Right.
So, they may want their mainstay, they may come in like I do, I get 1 or 2 bottles that, from you that I know I want.
Right.
But then it's more about, hey, you haven't had this yet, this is badass, put this in your cart, take it home. And the trust factor of that it's what we all love. We all love trying new things, and it's a learning curve.
Yeah, and why these things are interesting, what makes them interesting, you can add that to your, what you want to do with your wine.
Right, exactly.
Well, I love these 2 wines. This is a great starting point to our experience here. We could have done your other 2 red wines, but I thought that this would be a really good starting point, especially to talk about Andy Beckstoffer and, hey, the greatness of Napa Valley. Napa Valley and Sonoma Valley, they're just over the hill from each other. And this is actually a hill here too. One thing that you can't see, and you can go back to some of the other kinds of shows that I've done, especially with Brian, and see that this mountain right behind us is really amazing. It's a little epic mountain. I mean, we all know
And we planted it.
Yeah, and he planted it, The part out there is not the part that he planted. So we'll talk about this part up here in the next show. But, I think that finding these little gems, and, so many of these great people that come here to the auction of Sonoma County are the same people that go to the auction of Napa Valley. And it's because of Pinot and things like that, and Chardonnay, if they come to Sonoma County. But to be really honest, everyone loves Cabernet if it's done right. And I think that people have really developed a palate for real world-class Chardonnay too. And I think that this is a great example. These 2 wines really knock it out of the park with these styles, and being about as varietally correct as you could ever get, and really tasting like what the potential of America is.
And one of the things I would finally say at the end, when I first got to the Valley in 97, 98, there was this whole identity crisis in Sonoma. They didn't quite know who they were yet. They felt like they were the stepbrother to Napa. And one of the beautiful things that's evolved is the respect between the 2 valleys.
Mm-hmm.
And the words I use, they're equally important.
That's true.
They're equally important for different reasons. And I share with everyone, just if you drink Napa Cab, come to the other side of the hill, because there's don't look for Cabernet, but look for some bigger red wines, and there's some really cool stuff out there, and they're completely different experiences.
Well, you find the great things where so many producers in Napa Valley that make Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, they're getting it from here.
Of course.
They understand, that there's certain things that do better in certain areas. But, I think that our next show we'll get into another couple varieties that you have here.
We're going to call that one the Geek Out Show.
Yeah, that's a super geek out show. But we've also got some food for that one. So hope you can tune into the next show as well. Thanks once again, Brian. This is amazing. Barry, it's always fun being with you.
Yeah.
You and I have had adventures together, but this is one of the ones where I felt like I took you to Italy. But we actually tasted Napa Valley wines. This is crazy. Crazy. But you can do that stuff here at Locanda. I love it. So thanks once again, everyone. Great brand to know, great wines to taste, and thanks for tuning in. Cheerio.